Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be interviewing a script consultant slash script teacher. Now, I promised myself several months ago I would never interview a script consultant again because I had a very bad experience interviewing a script consultant who shall remain nameless. But I'm having this one on today. Her name is Pilar Alessandra. I had seen her interviewed on a Film Courage video on YouTube, and I thought she was cute and she had such an upbeat energy, and I decided to have her on the podcast. I could ask her about the whole process of screenwriting and the business side and how she got into the business and everything, because I'm a screenwriter myself and I'm trying to get into the business as well. And it's going to be pretty cool, I think. So, here is my interview with Pilar Alessandra.
Hello.
Hey, Pilar. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tommy. How are ya?
I am great. How are you?
Good. Have you started taping yet?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have? Okay, so it's Pilar.
Yeah, Pilar.
Yeah, that's all right. So how you doing?
I am great. How are you?
Good.
Well, thank you for taking the time today.
No problem. What does Splat from the Past mean?
I started out talking about mostly horror on this podcast, and then I made it variety afterwards.
Ah, okay. Got it. And from the past is because it's like you're a fan of like 80s and 90s kind of horror?
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay, so clearing that up.
Yes. So, going back to the beginning, how did your screenwriting journey begin for you? Did you realize growing up that you were good at writing?
I am not a screenwriter. I'm a script consultant. So what I do is I teach screenwriting. I have classes, and I consult with writers on their screenplay. My background was as a reader back in the day for Steven Spielberg, for Amblin, and for DreamWorks, and then for a whole bunch of other companies as well. So I learned how to do story analysis that way. And then I started teaching because I thought a lot of what I was reading in scripts was really working for the executives, and some things weren't working. And so I was trying to figure out how I could teach people some actual writing tools that would help them towards strengthening their scripts and maybe avoiding what was getting their scripts passed on. So I started teaching that. Those classes took off. A book followed. The podcast also came around. I have a podcast called On the Page, and I consult with writers. So that's what I do. I am not a screenwriter. I guide screenwriters.
Mm-hmm. So something you fell into after doing something else in the business.
Right. So it was kind of a natural extension when you've already been when you've already been analyzing scripts for a living, and figuring out what works and doesn't work, rather than just pass on things, which is what you do for studios and production companies. You either say yes or you say no to other people reading it. I thought it would be more helpful to work with writers directly and try and help them strengthen what they have, so that I wasn't just the person who was opening a gate or closing a gate.
Mm-hmm. You fell in love with film and television early on, though?
Yeah, I did. When I was a little kid, my dad didn't really understand what was appropriate and not appropriate to take kids to as far as the movies went. And if my mom didn't want to go to a movie, he would just take me along. So, at the age of 6, I'm seeing 2001, and I'm seeing Mel Brooks movies and Woody Allen movies and all kinds of things I shouldn't have been seeing but it definitely had an impact on me. And I had this kind of weird film education just by virtue of the fact that, my dad wasn't being the greatest father. But it all worked out.
But you consider 2001 inappropriate?
Yeah, if you're 6, it's not good for a 6-year-old. Let's just say that. It's a little crazy, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a movie that'll go over anybody's head that they see it for the first time. It's just a weird movie.
It's a little scary at the end for a 6-year-old. I won't give it away, but
yeah,
it's a little nutty. Still in my dreams.
Yeah, me and my dad, we used to watch R-rated movies when my mom wasn't home.
There you go. See, and that's why you're interested in film now. So chalk one up to bad parenting. There you go.
Perfect. Where are you from originally?
I'm kind of from all over the East Coast. Because of my dad's job, we moved sort of up from New Jersey to New York to Boston. Eventually, I ended up graduating high school in the Boston area, and then I came out to Los Angeles when I was 22. So I've been there since the age of 22, which means I've pretty much been here longer than I've been anywhere else. And I kind of consider myself a Los Angeles person now.
Nice. Did you have any family connections in the business?
I didn't, but I had friends from college that were passionate about film, and I used to sit with them at lunch, and they are actually the ones that continued my film education because they were really into Spielberg, and they were really into Star Wars, and so a lot of the sort of pop culture movies that I didn't always keep up with, they kind of versed me on. They were big Stan Lee fans and all kinds of stuff. So when I came out to LA, they became sort of my community and got me excited about movies all over again.
Wow. And do you remember when you finally went to DreamWorks? Do you remember the first thing you read that you were blown away by?
Oh God, I do. Actually, it was Amblin that I went to first. So Amblin sort of became DreamWorks after a couple of years.
Yep.
So it was Amblin Entertainment. Oh my God, I am blanking on it. Shoot, I wish I knew I was going to get this button. Okay, so it's the one with Richard Gere, and he's an attorney, and he's dealing with a multiple personality client. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to think.
I'm looking up Richard Gere movies as we talk.
Me too. I'm looking it up too.
Here it is, Primal Fear.
Oh, okay.
So Primal Fear was the first script I read for Amblin, and I was like, this is really good. And I felt bad because I thought, oh my God, the very first script I read, I really liked. Maybe I'm not good at my job. Like, maybe, they can't all be this good. But I did say, look, I love it, and I loved it because of the ending. There was this real twist ending, which anybody who's seen that movie knows, and it definitely took me completely by surprise as a reader. I had one big note about the sort of a real estate subplot. But other than that, I was like, ooh, this is great. Now, Amblin didn't make it, but that was definitely the quality of script that I was getting right away, and that turned out to be a really wonderful movie.
Wow. So you must have saw just the most amazing scripts that became big hits over there.
Yeah, I did, but I also, don't get me wrong, even though, the quality of the writing could be good, some of this stuff, could just be formulaic, or it was, the same idea sort of resurrected over and over again. It's when you're getting, I think at a certain point when I was working for DreamWorks, they got about 150 submissions a week. So you could imagine that, there were some good ones and there were some really bad ones too. they were all well represented, but just because somebody has excellent representation doesn't always mean that it's the greatest script. Sometimes where I was most likely to pass on a script was if I felt like it was actually trying to be too generic or too crowd-pleasing. I'm always looking for something that's sort of special and tries a little bit harder to be unique.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's an exciting question. Did you ever pass on something that became a huge hit somewhere else?
I did. And it was a huge lesson because the minute I passed on it, all the executives knew that I had missed the boat in a major way, and I almost got fired for it. And it was because I didn't have enough life experience, and I didn't have enough real perspective on what the movie was going for in terms of genre. I just thought it was about a dumb girl who was shallow doing dumb things. And guess what movie it was? It was Clueless. So there I was, just a dumb girl who was not really doing her job, was judging the character instead of really seeing what the story was trying to say and what the tone of the script was. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, they gave me another chance after that. But the minute I said no to it, the executives were like, yeah, you completely misread the script. So, yep, I passed on Clueless. I was an idiot.
I think it worked out though. I can't imagine the movie having the Amblin logo on it.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But it definitely created like sort of a new genre too. Of sort of sarcastic, high school, edgy, kind of movies that we would see for a while. I mean, in the 80s there was Heathers, but there hadn't been anything like that for a long time. So, yeah, I missed the boat.
Yeah, the Generation X teen movies, I believe it's called.
Right, definitely.
So, how long were you there overall?
God, probably longer than I should have been. I think I was, for at least 5 years between Amblin and DreamWorks. When DreamWorks came along, I was given the title of Senior Story Analyst, which I just think means you were been there the longest. But I also, would do some notes on existing projects. For a while, when they had a deal with Robert Zemeckis' company, I would do notes between both companies. So I learned an awful lot.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Shrek get made?
Shrek was definitely in development when I was there. I think it came out after I left. Animated movies take so long. They take so long, so things can be in development forever. I did see some things that were just like the idea of Men in Black was bouncing around in that company for years and years before it was actually developed into what it became. So yeah, it was interesting just from sort of watching the development process. I cannot claim to have been hugely important in the development process. I just was learning on the job.
Mm-hmm. So did you? So when did you decide that you were going to go into script consulting?
Well, I think because I'd already been analyzing scripts and I wanted to actually be useful rather than just be somebody who says yes or no. I wanted to take what I was learning and help writers and really dig in. And instead of just saying this isn't working, I could say this isn't working, this is why it isn't working, this is how it can work, and let's work together to make it better. So that became sort of my new way of going about it when I started being a private script consultant.
Mm-hmm. So did you rent a space to do consulting at?
Well, no. When I first started, I was just sort of like, I'd already been helping some friends, and then I decided to start charging for it. And I was still sort of script reading, and I was teaching a little, and for UCLA Extension, and teaching people how to be a script reader. And then I would take maybe like a client a month, and then that became two clients a month, and now, years and years later, I do about two. I talk to about two writers a day. It's like with anything that you start, you have to prove that you're helpful to people, that if they're paying you money and trusting you with their art, that, you're worth it. And so over the years, I hope I've developed a reputation that tells people they can trust me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you interviewed on a Film Courage video on YouTube, and I was very impressed. You have this very positive energy about you, and a very free-spirited sense of humor as well. And it made me want to reach out to you because back in September, I interviewed this one script consultant. It was not a very good experience. She was a very bitter person, very sarcastic and belligerent. And I very much regretted it after it. And I decided that I was never going to interview a script consultant again. And then when I saw you, I just was blown away by how genuine and how positive you are.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then after I posted that interview, I got all these messages from people who know her reputation, and say that she's not a good person and that she's ripped a lot of people off and stuff. So That wasn't good.
Oh, that's not cool. That isn't cool at all.
No. So you've got the first couple of years, I mean, did you have low attendance and then it build up as in terms of students?
Well, because I'd worked at UCLA, and because I don't know, I had some people who trusted me. I was able to put together a class, and a class became two. And then also I tried to create classes where I see a need. So in the beginning, it was just a first draft class and a rewrite class. But over time, it's also become a story analysis workshop and a TV writer's workshop. I was teaching a class in writing female-driven scripts for a while. So I've been adding classes where there's a need, and where there's a need, people come to class. So that's been fun. And I think you asked about renting a studio. When I first started teaching classes, I rented out of a little place like where kids would come and do their homework. It was called the Homework Club. And it was really tiny, but I'm 5'1". Okay, so I didn't realize how tiny it was until like real grown-ups came in to have class, and they're all sitting in these little chairs, and I was like, maybe this wasn't the smartest. So then I got my own studio, and now I've been on my own in my own place for, I don't know, over 10 years, something like that.
Wow. So how did they see you? Did you have to wear high heels?
Yeah, I think maybe that's one of the reasons I teach, is because I get to be the tallest person on stage, like everybody else is sitting in a standing. And yes, I always wear high heels. Anybody who has ever studied with me knows that I never teach without high heels on. It's just a thing.
I'm 6'3". No one ever has any trouble seeing me.
Oh, that must be nice. You can reach things. Awesome.
It is, yeah. Oh my God, I'm in supermarkets and random short ladies ask me to like get something for them.
I am that random short lady. I ask people to get things for me all the time. It's so humiliating.
Yeah. So you taught a lot of people who have gone on to become successful.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just a matter of time, because as anybody who is trying to be a writer knows, it takes a while. So since now I've been teaching a while, I've gotten to see my students become successful, especially in in TV. In TV, it does speed up the process, You can get staffed and you can see your stuff. And so as TV got more popular, I got to see more of my writers get work. So, I've got writers on lots of popular shows. I guess to name drop a little, so Karen Gist, somebody I worked with years ago and kept working with,
Mm-hmm.
wrote Camp Rock, and she ended up being an executive producer on Grey's Anatomy, and then, or a co-EP, I should say, on Grey's Anatomy. And then Charlotte Stout, she was a client of mine, and she's currently an EP on House of Cards. Sean Box, he was a client of mine, and I just saw a lot of promise in him. I even had him on the podcast as sort of like a rising star because I could see he was going places. And then right after that, he was staffed on Silicon Valley. So, it's really a point of pride for me to see my writers, get a career and do so well. I feel like a den mom.
Yeah. Any Academy Award winners yet?
Not yet. I'm psyched because on my podcast, I just had one of the writers from Black Klansman on as a guest. So he may go on to win an Academy Award. We'll see. But no Oscar winners among my clients and students yet. But I think it's just a matter of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything's possible.
Oh, I firmly believe it. To be honest with you, they're so talented, and I really believe that some of the people I've worked with just stand out, and I wouldn't be at all surprised.
Yeah, I started writing screenplays when I was only 12 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
So how many screenplays have you written since?
Oh, I've written probably 40 or 50 at least, and a lot of them I either lost or they're gone because they were terrible because they were from like years ago. I went through a period where I stopped, but I've written a lot of scripts.
40 or 50?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's crazy. So are all of them horror, or do they span different genres?
I started writing horror because I was only writing comedy because that comedy has always been my biggest strength, and I wrote comedy for the first 10 years or so strictly, and then I started writing horror and sci-fi, and I go back and forth with those genres and stuff. I wanted to start writing horror and sci-fi and other genres in the mid 2000s just to see if I could do it, and I did, but then I stopped for almost 10 years, and now I've gotten back into it since my car accident in 2015, and I'm pursuing the business now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was the last thing that you wrote? What's it about?
Let me see. I started writing the script. I actually lost interest in it because I had all these ideas, but then halfway through it, I was just like, I don't know where to go from here. So maybe I'll go back to writing it. I wrote a raunchy adult version of Babes in Toyland.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what? I'm not going to ask you anything further. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But you know what? You just pitched it really well. So I think somebody who's interested in something like that is immediately going to know what they're in for. Well done.
Yeah, I'll tell you something though. There's some pretty funny jokes in there, and what I do sometimes if I write something and I lose interest halfway, I take the best jokes out of it and I put it in another script.
Oh, well, that's a good idea. I think that's smart because not everything, just because it's a joke, doesn't mean that it serves the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so for you to know that, all right, I put this joke in, but it doesn't really work here, that's the sign of good instincts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm a stand-up comedian, so I just put the comic tongue to good use in my screenplays.
Excellent. I wish I've been on the podcast. A lot of my guests will talk about the need for people to go to improv. And I believe that is absolutely true because it helps you come up with ideas on the spot and it will help you in a pitching situation. But I feel even more strongly that people should take a stand-up class because it teaches you the structure of a joke. It helps you test your writing right in the moment. It helps you with editing. So, and it also will people and tell jokes, you can go into a room and pitch things. So yeah, stand-up, a huge skill. Everybody should have it.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to outline a short film that I want to make with a friend of mine who's a filmmaker. It's a movie that has commentary on the Me Too movement from my point of view and stuff.
Okay, all right. If you do a short film, just some things for people to remember is that you want to keep it short.
Yeah.
Film festivals, really, no, because a lot of people will be like, I'm doing a short film, and then they write 20 pages.
Yeah.
And film festivals reserve those 20-minute shorts for really big names. And what they want to do is fill the rest of that night with truly short films. So if yours is, short, to the point, has a twist, it's more likely to get into a film festival.
Yeah. How many pages would you recommend for a short film?
Honestly, if you think of a minute per page, then I really wouldn't do more than 15 pages because let's say you can get that to like a 12-minute film. Because it is a minute per page, but sometimes it's also like 30 seconds per page if the dialogue is going very quickly. So yeah, no more than 15 pages. I read shorts that are 10 pages, and they're just as strong as something that's 20.
Nice. Yeah, my friend, he won a prize at the Short Film Festival in Sacramento last year, and I was so impressed by the way the film looked. I was like, oh, God, we got to do something together,
Sure. I mean, that's how great collaborations are formed, right? Somebody's great with visuals, somebody's great with writing, and these days you really want to make something in order to see and be seen, because there is a lot of content out there, and if you can show that you can also produce things and it's quality, that may have you rising above the rest.
Yeah, there's a lot of content out there that's going to, they go to the festivals, they get picked up for distribution, but they're barely seen. They go to online streaming, and you'll know if anybody's watching,
But you know what? The other side of that is there are agents and managers who are looking at it. There are producers who might have a property and they need a writer on it who are looking at it. So even if people are watching from within the industry, that's good enough. Sometimes you don't need a huge audience. You just need the right audience.
Right. Now, let's get into the business side of screenwriting, because I've heard you make some pretty interesting points about it and stuff. About selling a screenplay. What are things that you recommend?
Well, if you're an unproduced writer, a lot of people may roll their eyes at this, but it is a fact that these days, with script competitions, managers and agents are using script competitions to vet material. So if you do very well in a prestigious contest, that manager or agent is going to be looking at you, and you need representation. You need representation so that they can go out and do the footwork that you can't necessarily do. You might not have those contests. So I wouldn't turn up your nose at script competitions. I would go for the more prestigious ones. Make sure that there's good contacts and money at the end of their rainbow. You don't want just software as your prize. So I would do that. Another thing I would do is make a little tree of the people you know and the people that those people know, and you will find out that you actually know people. And I would, improve those contacts. That doesn't mean calling them up and asking for a favor. It just means maybe offering to do something, offering them a favor, just being a good friend, paying attention to their social media, interacting with them, so that when you feel the time is right for you then to say, oh, you know what, hey, I have a script just like the one you say that you're looking for on social media. It's a really organic chance to actually get that person to read something, rather than, hitting them up with a favor right away. People will pull back if you do that. So I know it's not really exciting way for me to say, competitions and networking. But yeah, competitions and networking. Also, what we just talked about was actually making something. If you have good short form content that you can also direct or show that you have a vision, and it gets noticed online, that's also another way to get eyes on your work. I've seen some of my writers who are excellent writers not get noticed until they did, let's say, a web series that really got somebody's attention.
I'm going to give you this scenario that happened to me 3 years ago, and I talked to somebody not too long ago who's a screenwriter, and she told me what possibly went wrong with it, and I want to see if you agree. So,
okay.
3 years ago, I go to this horror convention, and I go meet this horror actress that I love who just got into producing recently, and I've always wanted to work with her. And I go over to her table. She seemed a little standoffish at first because she didn't know me and everything. All she knew was that I was a follower on her Facebook. That was it. And we talked for a little bit, and I told her I had this script that I wanted her to read and stuff. And I don't know. She was already looking uncomfortable and uneasy as it is. And, she didn't ask me anything about it or anything. It just was really awkward. And then a few months later, I went to the screening of this movie of hers. And she was a completely different person when I saw her the second time. She, welcomed me with open arms, gave me a great big hug, and we talked for, 45 minutes at the bar, because this was Alamo Drafthouse. We were talking at the bar at Alamo Drafthouse, and then I said to her, and I had sent her the script, I finally sent her the script not too long after the first time I met her, right? And I asked her if she read it. She told me that she only reads screenplays if she's being offered a job or something. And then we go to watch the movie, and then afterwards she's got a Q&A, and she tells the story about how she got the movie and stuff. She turned down to read it 10 times before she actually did it, and she knew the guy for 3 years or something before she read the script and made the movie and stuff, right? And so I asked this screenwriter I met what happened, and she said it's one of four things. One, she probably thought you were a dreamer who's all words and no action. Two, you're probably the 100th fan to tell her that you have a script you want her to read. Three, if you are legit, you probably only know the writing side and not the business side. And four, all you said was you have a script. You did not pitch the high concept to her. Is any of that true?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that she said. I would add also when you're trying to get talent, they're usually approached through the agent or manager of the writer. The writer rarely just says, "Here, I have something for you."
Right.
So it just always having that representative makes it look more legitimate. And also, yeah, she's at a conference. She's feeling, a little, she's got to field all kinds of things at one time. So yeah, it might not have been the time or place. And so I definitely agree with the writer. But one thing that you saw was when she recognized you the second time, it's because now there's a familiarity.
Right.
So that just goes to show that if you create these relationships over time, if you have patience, over time, eventually somebody will feel comfortable enough to be like, yeah, sure, give it to me. Just like she said, it took 3 years of a friendship and finally being like, okay, I'll read it. And then she made it.
Mm-hmm. Which brings me to my next question here. She also suggested that I should try to volunteer to be a money handler for celebrities at conventions or film festivals, because when you spend a whole weekend with them, you gain their trust. They know that you're not full of shit like some fan could be, you know?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't know enough about the world of conventions that she's in or that you attended for me to say, like, yes or no to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what she's getting at is, yeah, like when people see you and they trust you and you're sort of in their world, that's one way to create a relationship, and they'd be much more likely to, look at your script over a stranger's. So, yeah, that makes sense to me if that's something that you would actually also enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm. And there's one tricky little thing there for me too and stuff. It's like I've I've never had like a close. I've had a few close friendships over my life, but not many. I spent my whole childhood, in front of the TV because I couldn't make friends. I was bullied a lot in school and stuff, and that a lot of that has stayed with me. And like the friendship part is like the hardest part for me because I'm always loyal to people, but they're never loyal to me back. And so that plays a really weird role in the, trying to get into the business thing.
We got to remember that a lot of people are really, really busy. So if, let's say, you write somebody and it takes, like, in my case, right, it took me like 4 months to get back to you. And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot to get back to this person because I was so swamped with other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now here I am, I'm, talking to you. So sometimes it ain't personal. It really is that people are as busy as you think. And, even though it's a very, very people-oriented industry, it's still an industry. It's still a job. And when people go home at the end of the day, they just want to, be with their families or do their thing. So if you're off their radar, it ain't personal. It really isn't somebody betraying you or turning their back on you or being cold to you. It's just in the moment they were loving it. Outside of the moment, they kind of forgot about it, and the next time you see them, they'll love it all over again. So it can be frustrating, but I just want to let you know it's not. It feels personal sometimes, but I think for the most part it isn't.
Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying. So you have this podcast that's also called On the Page.
Yep.
And how long have you been doing it for?
Oh my God, 11 years? Yeah, 11 maybe. Yeah, we started in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's going on 12. Oh my good Lord. Yeah, and I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I still do it. And it's weekly, and I will either most of the time I have a guest. I'll talk to a produced screenwriter or TV writer or a producer or an actor, and we always end up talking about the script. That's the most important thing, is the written word. Occasionally I'll give my 2 cents and maybe, teach a small class in the podcast. So yeah, it's On the Page. It's a lot of fun.
Wow, so you started it before anyone knew what a podcast was.
I know. I mean, I didn't even realize at the time that, like, I was in, like, the dinosaur age of podcasts, but I guess I was. When I started, as far as I knew, there were some podcasts out there, but there certainly weren't a lot of screenwriting or TV writing podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know about podcasts until 5 years ago, and I'm hooked on them. And it's made my life easier because I've learned a lot about the business from listening to them because I had no friends or mentors in stand-up or anything when I started.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think that they're really good learning tools, and I think that's one of the reasons I take the On the Page podcast as seriously as I can, because I realize that I may be somebody's film school, and that the information that we give, it can be eclectic, it can, come from all different opinions, but that they need to leave each show at least with one nugget of something they didn't know, or a new insight, something to think about. And I think there is a responsibility with people who podcast that they need to know that, their listener needs to be respected.
Very well said. Well, Pilar, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you. Can I plug my website to people so they know where to go?
Oh, go right ahead.
Great. It's my full name is Pilar Alessandra, kind of a mouthful, So you can just look up onthepage.tv. That's my business, onthepage.tv. It's got links to everything, classes, consulting, the podcast, everything we talked about.
Awesome. Oh, by the way, so what's your full nationality?
It's kind of, I am Greek on one side
Mm-hmm.
and Russian Jewish on another, and like a whole lot of other things here and there. But yeah, it's the Greek that really comes through. So yeah.
No Latino or anything?
Everything.
No Latino or anything?
No, which is, I was so guilty because I have a Latina name. Pilar is a Spanish name. Alessandra is an Italian name. And I dropped my Greek last name when I was 18. So it's, I sound like I'm from a part of the world that I am not, but yes, it's the name my parents gave me.
That's okay. The fact that you're so adorable makes up for it.
Thank you. What a nice thing to say.
Yes. Well,
Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And I thank you for the advice, and I will surely follow it on my crazy journey I've been on. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. You too. You take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Pilar Alessandra. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Pilar. You're a very sweet lady, and you're very good at your job. And I hope your teaching spawns some Academy Award winners, because it's never too late, as I said. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!